the car. Mainly have them in the grill. When you have wide shots, you ride out to the grill. When you have close-ups, you come back in with the bus.
Okay, let's go in for a just rolling.
Yeah. Making lots of calls now. We'll start up and you can go ahead and start.
Okay. Can I get me something to drink real quick? It's kind of hot. I've been kind of standing here.
Yeah, that is all I got to say.
Yeah.
Screaming and crying. Want some more?
No, one more plug.
Is it just water? Well, I'll get you some. Place. You're all in?
All right, Jimmy. At what age did you start playing the guitar?
I started playing when I was about 13. I wasn't doing too good in school, so I thought maybe if I got a guitar and practiced real hard, I could make a lot of money and have a lot of girlfriends and all that stuff. So I was about 13 when I first started. It took me about 3 months to learn how to play, and then so I could get by. And then it was school gigs and just wherever they'd let us play. You know, morning dances at school, stuff like that.
What was it like growing up in Texas?
Well, I don't know. I never grew up anywhere else. I mean, it was, we traveled a lot. We grew up in, we were born in Dallas, but we traveled in Louisiana, Mississippi, Arkansas, and all around Texas. Our dad was a asbestos worker, and he followed jobs around. So it was pretty strange. I don't know. It was Texas, you know. Texas is another planet from what I've seen compared to the rest of the world. Yeah, it had everything to do with it, I guess. When I was a kid, when me and my brother were kids, my dad used to hang out with some of the guys in the Bob Wills band, Texas Playboys, and there was a couple of guys that used to come over and they had 42 parties on Friday nights. It's a domino game, and they'd sit around and play guitar when they weren't playing dominoes, and so that was really our first time we ever really saw any guys play. And then, of course, my uncles on both sides of my family, my mother's and my dad's, both played guitar and stuff like that. So we were always around somebody playing, you know.
Was there anybody else that influenced you?
Well, that was at first. Then after we started growing up and getting around, there was a lot of black radio, and back then, and we used to listen to that and country and western. And Freddie King lived in Dallas, and I used to follow him around all over the place, stealing stuff from him. And he finally started talking to me and told me what to do and what not to do, and he started taking me around, and he would let me in the back door at clubs, and he was a big influence. Him and B.B. King, T-Bone Walker, Lightning Hopkins, and then, of course, several guys around my neighborhood that were playing rock and roll.
Talk about the history, the Texas music, and how what you know about the history of Texas music.
blues?
Yeah. Well, the Texas blues is, to me, is T-Bone Walker, Lightning Hopkins, and Freddie King. Albert Collins, of course. Gape Mouth Brown. There's a million guys that you can name. I think it had a big influence on the sound of all music, pop music, rock and roll, jazz, everything. Texas is so big, and there's so many different kinds of people that came to this state, and so many different kinds of music. That's why you get all this. It came out like this because of all the different influences from Mexican music, German music, black music, hillbilly music, gospel music. It was all right here, and it sort of blended together. So.
What about the 60s music scene? Remember much about that?
Yeah, well, in the 60s is when I started playing. I started playing right before the Beatles came out and all that stuff. And we were playing the Ventures, anything that was on the radio, trying to play country and western and stuff. And then I got in a band called the Chessmen. Well, I was in a band called Sammy Loria and the Penetrations and the Swinging Pendulums and several garage bands around Dallas. And then I got in a band called the Chessmen, who were sort of a local hotshot band, I guess, around Dallas. And then let's see, there was I used to play with a drummer named Doyle Bramhall that was from Irving, Texas, and that's where Sam the Sham was from. And he said he used to see him riding a unicycle around town. That's all I know about Sam, though. Is it going to be hard to cut all this stuff together because of the way I'm ending and starting?
No, when you start out, you need to start out more with what I'm asking the question about, though. You know, like the 60s, you just did that last right.
Uh-huh.
Okay. Right. You just covered a bunch of the 60s, including Doug. You didn't say Doug Sahm, you didn't sound the snap. Do you want to say anything about Doug Sahm?
Yeah, Doug Sahm is, yeah. Doug Sahm is one of the biggest influences on everybody around Texas, I would suppose. He's been doing it so long. He's a great guitarist, plays fiddle, he's a great steel player, steel guitar, great singer and songwriter. And we've always watched Doug and listened to his records, way back as far as I can remember. When I first started playing, he had a Rain, Rain, Rain and all that stuff. She's About a Mover and all that was out. So he's always been a big influence on everybody in Texas. Still is.
What about Buddy Holly?
Now, Buddy Holly, I never saw Buddy Holly play or met him or anything, but if you had a guitar in Texas and you didn't know how to play Peggy Sue, forget it. You couldn't play. And that was one of the requirements. You had to learn how to play that.
I'd like to talk about the T-Birds and how they got together.
Yeah. Let me get a drink.
I'm going to say the T-Birds first sentence.
All right. The T-Birds started about 10 years ago here in Austin. I was playing in a barbecue joint with another band called The Storm, and Kim came up in the joint and sat in, and after that I dug away, played and sang. So we got together a few months after that and started the Fabulous Thunderbirds. We started out right here at Antone's. We were the house band for a couple of years, and we got to play with all the great blues singers that came through town that didn't have a band. It was a great education for us because we learned so many different styles of blues and rock and roll from all these people from Chicago and Louisiana and Texas. And so anyway, here we are 10 years later, still plugging away. Still playing at Antone's and still trying to learn how to play.
How would you describe your sound, your T-Bird sound? Start that one first.
Well, I think our sound is got a little bit of everything in it. It's got the Texas blues in it, like jump blues. It's got Latin Hopkins in it. It's got Jimmy Reed in it. It's got Little Richard in it. It's got some country and western in it. It's really a mixture of everything that I've always dug musically, that I've heard. You know, that if you hear something you like, you can't help but be influenced by it a little bit. So we just call it T-Bird music now, but because we don't know what to call it. There's so many names. You can call it R&B or blues rock, or I don't know what you call it. Call it what you want to, but it's got everything in it.
Would you like to talk about living in Austin?
Yeah, I'm from Dallas. Me and Stevie both are from Dallas, and several of the guys from around Austin here are from Dallas. There's not too many people from Austin in Austin. We moved down here because we knew we couldn't get a gig in Dallas playing. They wouldn't let us play what we were playing, the blues and the R&B. So we came down here because there's always been hippie bands and jazz, and in the 60s when we came down there was everything psychedelic. There's a lot of painters and artists and just beatniks and weirdos, and they all came down because it was university, I guess. And so we came down here to because we knew we could play. We had gigs at the Vulcan Gas Company, played over on the east side, and it's really grown a lot. But it's the best place in Texas, I think, definitely. And the cops were a lot nicer here in the 60s. If you had long hair in Houston or Dallas, you'd probably get your head beat in. So that was another reason. And it was real cheap down here too. Everything was cheap. Rent was like $50 a month and stuff like that.
What about the club scene?
Well, the club scene, we've opened in, the only club that I know of that's been here for a long time really is Antone's right here. We've opened 50 clubs and then they get in trouble and we'll do benefits for them, and then they'll close. And then a month later somebody else will open up the same building with a different name. But I think there's a lot more clubs in Austin than any city I've been to, especially this size. There's as much going on here as there is as far as the club scene, live music, as in Houston or LA or even New York, believe it or not. And they got all kinds of music here, everything, you name it. So it's really a pretty healthy club scene for musicians.
Do you have any new bands you like?
What?
Any new bands that you are into now?
Well, I think everybody ought to be looking out for Little Charlie. He's from here. He's going to be tough. I haven't paid any attention to any new bands. The only new band I know is the Tailgaters. They're great. You got the Leroy Brothers, and you got Angela, and you got Luann Barton. I haven't listened to any new bands lately.
What about Stevie? Would you like to talk about Stevie Vaughan a little bit?
Yeah.
Okay, now you can start anytime you're ready now.
Okay. Yeah, Stevie's the only guy I've ever seen that can get up on stage with Albert King and play with him. Albert King and Albert Collins, it's pretty scary trying to play with those guys because they're so mean and they're so great. But you know, as a matter of fact, I guess he might be one of he might be the meanest guy out there right now. And I want to tell most of you guys with guitars that think you're hot, just try getting up on the stage with him sometime and see what happens. Except me. But I'm ran out. Just cut it off for a second. But I didn't really teach him how to play. I would play and he would sit around and watch, and then I would leave and then he would learn what I did. And then, you know, after a few years we started playing together around the house. And then I left from home, ran off with the band, and then next time I saw him about a year later, he was real good. You know, was really practicing and really got after it. So, and about that time, a couple of years after that, I went to California, came back, and then moved down to here to Austin. So he showed up about a year or two after I came down here. And he's been playing full time ever since. So we had the same influences, the same records. We learned off the same records, and we had the same guitar. So just cut it off for a minute here. I lost my train of thought that I never had. Okay, Stevie's one of those guys that can hear something one or two times and then walk to the guitar and play it. We were always good at copying B.B. King and Freddie King and all those guys, and so I think that was mainly where we got most of our stuff from. But he's really, everybody's really proud of him. He's really tearing it up. It was fun at we had a good time at the Carnegie Hall gig in New York with Dr. John and everything. And we're gonna have to stop this because it's not leading anywhere. I forgot the story.
All right, so. Okay, you're on 10 seconds.
Okay. People always want to know what it was like growing up in Texas and about the influences on the music and everything. All I can say is it's like having a big plate of food with you got enchiladas here, and you got barbecue here, and you got a steak here, and you got hot dogs over here. I mean, it's really, there's so many different things in Texas, you know, that every kind of musical influence and every kind of person, every kind of people, every kind of so it's like its own country. So and people around here seem to think that way too. They feel like they got their own country here. It's so big, you know. So I think that's why you have so many different kinds of sounds coming out of here. But at the heart of all of it, I think is the blues and the black influence on top of all the other stuff. So I think that's why Stevie plays the way he does, and that's why the T-Birds play the way we do. It's all the different influences. The same with Doug Sahm, all the guys from this Lone Star State.
What about you and Stevie?
Okay, that's the one that keeps stumping me here. Well, Stevie and I, back at home. I started playing first, and then it was about a year or two. He started picking up my guitar when I would leave. I'd tell him to leave it alone, get out of here, and leave my guitars alone. You know, he would, and then when I would leave, he would come in the room, and what about this car here?